the first horse I really want to ask you about is We've All Been Caught. He was due to run at Cheltenham last Saturday, a very exciting horse. Where does he go now?
Yeah, he's looking at the Cello, so racing Newbury, not too far away. The problem is he's only had one actually start for us this season, which is frustrating, but it's very much a point we want to get an idea of where we are with him. So if we want to be looking at kind of festivals later on in the season, we need to know, are we good enough to go and do it? So yes, he's been pitched in the deep end, but we felt we wouldn't really learn loads from going and winning a kind of a normal standard novice hurdle. So we want to actually go and take on some of the better horses and see if we're good enough to be dreaming big.
Yeah, exactly. And what a refreshing, nice attitude that is, exactly, to try and find out how good you are by taking on the good horses. So I'm glad to hear that he is high in your mind for that. And of course, the same day, we didn't get to see I Like to Move It, who was due to run in the International. What's the plan for him now?
He's got obviously a lot of options. He'll have an entry in the Christmas hurdle, but that's going to be incredibly difficult. And then the trouble is there's Haydock, obviously the champion hurdle trial, that's later on in January. He's actually in really good form, so we're kind of looking what is around the corner. So he could end up with a step up and trip in the Rail Keel at Cheltenham, trying a little bit further and seeing. But otherwise, it's very hard for him. He'll have to go back into a 2-mile handicap back at Ascot, which will be very hard. So it's very, very few options for him. So it is a case of juggling and seeing who goes where. And if the Christmas one ended up looking really hot and then there only ended up being a handful in there, there's still fantastic prize money. So it's just trying to make a bit of a plan when we see what's there and about.
Yeah, exactly. And like you say, I mean, you've lost the Contenders hurdle now, and then you've lost the International, and you are sort of starting to become a little bit limited, dare I say it, then with those types of horses. But I mean, he's a brilliant horse, isn't he, wherever he goes to, and always seems to be underestimated. So good to hear that he's in good order himself. Now, talking about Cheltenham races and Cheltenham runners, though, we did at least get to see some of those on the Friday before last. And starting with Master Chewy, I mean, he ran a really solid race, I thought, finishing second to a potentially smart one in a novice's hurdle. And were you pleased with that run, and what's the plan with him?
Pleased but frustrated at the same time. As when you're riding, it was very much a case of, I thought all you have to do is jump the last and we'd go and win. So then when you get beat, you're always a little bit frustrated, would like to have done things differently and tried something else. But I think the truth of it all is he's an incredibly strong travelling horse. He goes through a race very smoothly, very easy. He's got jumping is getting better. So now he needs one more run and then he'll look for the what is the Betfair at Newbury. So he will literally find a nice novice hurdle for him somewhere, get his head in front, and then hopefully then we can look at that and dream big.
Yeah, exactly. Get that confidence booster then again to just get his head in front, but a work in progress. You know, he'll come good at some point. It's just when that's going to be exactly. Hopefully, touch wood anyway. And under supervision, though, you also had him finishing third in the Premier Handicap chase behind Eva's Oscar. I mean, good to see him bounce back to form on that reappearance, Sammy. So thoughts on him and his plan, please?
Yeah, it was an odd one because he looked like he was going to be absolutely stuffed at one point and then he stayed on really well for third. Dream will be the Grand National, but he's going to need to go up a bit to get in. So hopefully we'll have to find a race somewhere that we know he can go and be really competitive in. And he's going to have to win and then hopefully be competitive again to actually get in the race. So the Grand National is the long-term aim and target, but he's still got age on his side. So end of the day, he's going to be a lovely long-term, long-distance chaser for the future. So we'll look forward to it and just see where we can find the right race at the right time.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. Sorry if I've suddenly gone into darkness, by the way. My light has just decided to completely pack up there. So it's not as though we've just recorded this in the morning, in the evening, just so you know, yeah, that there isn't much continuity about this. This is just the
case. William Hill sent me a ring. I look like, I don't know what I look like, whether I'm shiny or what. So.
Beautifully illuminated, Sammy. Skin is glowing there.
It's a bit odd. Yeah.
No, exactly. I wish that I had invested in a higher price one anyway for this. And then horses that we didn't get to see at the weekend, that's still very interesting though. I mean, Good Boy Bobby, he was either going to go for the Tommy Whittle or the Ascot Premier Handicap chase. I obviously didn't get to go to either. Any future plans on him?
Yeah, he'll go back to Wetherby, where Boxing Day where he won last year. Hopefully he's in very good form. Everyone's very happy with him. Ideally, 3 miles deep ground suits him well. And I guess obviously long-term target again, he could probably have another look at the Grand National.
Yeah, exactly. So another one for the national, goodness me. Yeah. I mean, he's just such a wonderful horse, isn't he? But like you say, he's going to have lots of firepower then going to Aintree, hopefully. And the last horse I just want to ask you about that we didn't get to see, but was really looking forward to, Idalco Biu, if I'm pronouncing the name correctly there, was entered in the grade 2 Kennelgate Novices Hurdle at Ascot, but he's a perfect 2 from 2 in his career so far and was impressive on that stable British and Rules Davy. So what can you tell us about him?
Yeah, he's in good form. A little setback after his first win, but otherwise he's in really good form. He's going to have entries here, there, and everywhere. Ideas probably more like an EBF qualifier type of race. Handy to have him qualified for Sandown, because then if he doesn't jump up to where we want him to be, that can always be a nice race for a horse of kind of his nature. So that's an idea. But literally, he's going to have entries here, there, and everywhere, and find one which looks the easiest.
Yeah, exactly. And then find one that's going to suit him the best. So, but he does look a very exciting proposition, clearly highly enough thought of. So the last thing I just want for you for this section, Sammy, is I need some horses to follow, please. So first of all, a novice chaser in your mind to follow for the season.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. So at the minute, we're not actually got loads and loads of them. But for us, obviously, a horse we hope will be winning soon is Super Six. He's not going to end up at any of the big festivals, but he's jumping fences. He's taken to them well. He's travelled well around Cheltenham last time, then just petered out. So hoping to see better from him as one of ours, just because he's jumping fences the first time. And at one point, he looked very, very smart. So hopefully looking to see better again, and hopefully he can end up being reasonably well handicapped.
Oh, lovely. Make sure you make a note then of his name in your notebooks. Novice hurdler to follow.
Yeah, so we're very lucky. We're blessed. We've all been caught. He's obviously one of our standout. And then if it was well, like, he looks very good. So between those two, they're two to hopefully follow throughout their careers and jump fences one day.
Yeah, exactly. We've got who we were just mentioning previously, definitely a horse to follow. Well, handicapped horse, I know that's a tricky one for you to have to answer here, but what do you think potentially has more mileage in them, Mark?
There's a one, I couldn't believe he hasn't won yet, but he's only, I had a couple of starts for us because we've been waiting for the ground, but he's not one I actually ride, but Sergeant Wilson, one of Simon and Isaac's. He's a beautiful horse. Eddie Edge won his bump on at Taunton. He bolted up that day. He's just been a little bit of a work in progress. His jumping has been a little bit sloppy, and then he was beaten by two very good horses first time, and then at Newcastle last time bumped into one. So we hope handicap has been very fair, and there'll be a race up his sleeve very soon.
Nicely done. Sergeant Wilson that was, wasn't it? Yeah, so he
yes.
Potentially will. Truth then, can't believe he hasn't got his head in front. And would he therefore be your dark horse to follow, or would you have another horse of that category?
Yeah, I think him very much so. Just because his profile, he looked very good in his bumper, and we haven't really seen the very best of him yet. So I hope he is one which could really end up being quite good. But otherwise, apart from him, one I'd ride myself. I'm really looking forward to riding Master Chewy again.
Yeah. Well, we really like Master Chewy. Just have another go at him again. Then I think he's a horse that we're all going to be following throughout the entire season, such as the ability he's shown so far. So thanks so much for that, Sammy, for indulging us in all of those quick fire questions then for you. But again, don't go too far, because I have more for you still to come. Because of course, the big news then this week, or as of yesterday even, because we have had a whole load of news stories breaking this week, was the retirement of Davy Russell, and what a career he had. Now, Sam, just to throw it back to you, of course, you would have ridden against him plenty, but where would he stand in the upper echelons of the weighing room, basically, with Davy Russell in your mind?
Yeah, so me, Willie and Ryan Hatch were riding out together this morning. I think I was something really silly then. I think it said me, my brother Willie, and Ryan Hatch were riding out this morning.
As long as you were well wrapped up.
Yeah, they didn't need to be so much this morning. It was warm. Yeah, so very much we were actually having a discussion over where would in the top three. So we were arguing between obviously Richard Johnson, Adrian McCoy, Ruby Walsh, and then obviously Davy Russell. And obviously we all had very different opinions on it, but without any of it, he's absolutely outstanding rider, incredibly competitive, and very, very rarely made a mistake, incredibly strong the back end, tactically astute. He just had everything to be an incredibly good jockey, hence why, in whatever order you do put him, he is always going to be a top three.
Yeah, exactly. He is, isn't he? In the majority of people's minds, I think you'd be hard pushed to find someone to push him out of that top three. And have you got any particular race you remember riding against him as such, of any time where you thought, oh goodness, okay, that's why he's as good as he is?
He'd always, every now and again, he'd come over for a perf or something, and you'd think you'd go and got the race won, and out of nowhere he'd appear on your boot, and you're thinking, oh, here we go again. But no, just there was no stand-up memory, but just you always could watch Davy around Cheltenham, and it was always a pleasure to watch. And you think as a young jockey, and even as a jockey now, you'd watch back some replays of years, and you're thinking, why did Davy switch in there, or why did he go out? Because naturally, you think Cheltenham, sometimes it's always easier to switch out because you're almost a bit more guaranteed a run. But then you take the brave man's route, switch in. It's just an incredibly brave thing to do, and something that he was so well measured in the split-second decisions he made, which probably made him so good.
Yeah, like you say, it's all the difference, isn't it? Those split-second decisions that you can make, and someone like Davy Russell just rarely seem to have got those wrong. So thank you for those lovely words on Davy Russell anyway, Sammy. And another discussion point that has been hot this week, probably at the other end of the scale now, that has divided opinion to a massive degree, has obviously been the whip debate. We heard very eloquent and very well considered points from Andrew Thornton on last week's show. Now, your own opinion, I know that you must have some, because of course you are directly being affected by these whip reviews. You're going to be the person who's going to have to put these into practice. So from your point of view, what do you make of these and the way that the discussion is moving at the minute?
Yeah, I think the discussion moving forward is positive. Obviously, as we've heard and voiced, it's very hard for a lot of jockeys to use the backhand correctly. So with it coming in the period of time it was concerning. And then actually even just the use of itself. But I wouldn't be fantastic at the backhand. I wouldn't be something was taught particularly well to use. You're always taught to use the forehand properly, and you'd use it in a way where you could always reach the rump. So it's something then when you do put into practice the backhand now, it's amazing how quickly it became aware that actually a lot of us were getting pulled aside and being told, well, if you'd have done that in the new stick rules, you were getting X, Y, Z amount of days. So obviously, there's a lot more intelligent people that will speak about it a lot more eloquently, but at the same time, I can understand the problems and the reasons we need to make some changes and have these conversations. But I do hope in going forward that everyone will see a little bit of sense, and we can just maybe not so much talk about the forehand and backhand, and then very much just talk about how we can make the little changes maybe in the number of strikes or something like that. And so we are going forward, but then maybe not in the areas that they've probably highlighted so far.
Yeah, and it's really interesting you just say, because obviously part of the discussion now is why have the jockeys decided to speak up now? But if you just said that you're being pulled aside at the minute, being told you would have got a ban if you had hit the horse in the manner that you have just done. Has that been the catalyst for why people are deciding to speak out now?
Yeah, I think it's very much a case. There's a one that sticks up in my head the other day. Adam Wedge gave a horse a beautiful ride at Leicester, and the stewards came, pulled him aside and said, if you'd have ridden that horse exactly the same ways under the new rules, you would have been, and he was mostly backhand that day, and they'd have said you'd have been banned. And we has watched it, and it was a beautiful race to watch, gave it a lovely ride, and naked to any of us who thought it was perfect. But apparently, according to them, it would have resulted in him getting in trouble, which just, for us, that was a key moment where I actually sat back and thought, gosh, if that is seen as an infringement on the rules, then we're all in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you can understand therefore why that, like I say, it has been raised now, because you are getting to actually realize how these rules are going to be implemented in the real world nowadays, rather than just speaking about it. So hopefully it does all continue to go in the right way. On a different note now, Boxing Day we have coming up. And of course, we have a very big question to ask you about, but we will come to that in due course. So do stick with us with watching and listening to this, because we will be getting into that big question. You know what it is, but stick with us anyway. But Boxing Day in general, Sammy, how has it been for you in previous years? Is it something you look forward to? Do you even get to enjoy Christmas Day beforehand because of it? What is Boxing Day to you?
Yeah, it's obviously a day where you very much spend the day with the family, always looking forward to Boxing Day, but just actually take the couple of hours out of the day to relax, enjoy yourself. You do always hope you never have a light weight on Boxing Day, because that is the Christmas killer almost. But I'm very lucky, obviously loads of family around me, so back up to mum's, have obviously dinner up there with Willie, obviously aunties, uncles, and then very much pop down and see dad and all his family later on. So, but actually, first and foremost, get all the horses ridden out in the morning.
I was going to say, you're missing a key detail.
Yeah, we'll have make sure all the staff are okay and everyone's enjoying their morning, and get done as quickly as possible. First and foremost, make sure the horse is done as well as possible as well.
Yeah, so you do give yourself a bit of a chance to enjoy it at least anyway, so that's good.
Yeah, very much so, very much so. Trying not to eat too much turkey, but quite lucky in what we'll talk about later on, in being at Kempton, you're not so much worrying about doing the lightweights, thankfully.
No, exactly. You're at the right track. I mean, the right races there where, weight doesn't really come into it. Exactly. Get yourself into that position, basically. We don't have to worry about how much you eat on Christmas Day, according to Sam there.